I create great roles to play in my novels. You know, as an actor, I mean, not only do I use filmic techniques, and people always say, oh, I can see the film when I read your book. I love dialogue. That's the playwright in me. I love moving the action through dialogue, creating character through dialogue. My big thing is character in action, you know, which is another version of show, don't tell, really. But I love driving it forward and revealing character by what they do and what they say, how they react. I also like to give my characters, as if an actor was going to play the roles, something to play. Because part of the problem with all those dreadful scripts was there was nothing to play. Or it was so basic, it was a cliche. I hope that most of my characters, not all, you can't always do it with everyone, but most of my characters are rounded. They have conflict, they have, they're different things to different people. There's something to play in every scene. Didn't I always want to be a writer? You know, because I always did kind of write a bit. And now I look back and think, well, I'm a writer now, so I must have wanted to do it then. But I was pretty focused and, yes, on my acting career and pretty determined to get ahead. But the business side of it, the submitting yourself for approval constantly, giving over your power to other people to determine how well you're feeling about yourself, even though, you know, it might not be about who you are or even your acting. It might be you're not quite tall enough, you're not quite short enough, you're not quite fair enough, or you're too bloody old, you know, which happens all the time. As you get older, the roles change, you know, it's a youth-dominated profession. So, you know, the endless seeking of approval got to me. The bad scripts got to me. You know, you're trying to make a living, and most of the stuff you do out there is rubbish. You know, and you think, I'm making it work for them because I'm a good enough actor to do that. But really, why can't I be speaking Shakespeare? You know, this is rubbish. And that's not true of everything. Of course, there's some fantastic television, but I didn't seem to be going up for the fantastics. I was going up for the potboiler, you know, episodics, and it bored me. Well, with Vlad, for example, it was a very hard book to write. It was trying to wrap my head around. I didn't want to write a horror story, even though there is some fairly horrible stuff in it, but it's not, and it is dark in some ways. It's a gothic novel in other ways, because the elephant in the room with a book about Vlad Dracula is always going to be the vampire. This is not a vampire book. This is about the real guy whose name was Dracula, Vlad the Impaler. So there was darkness to be wrestled with. There was a lot of... One of the tricks with historical fiction, of course, is that I don't want to give history lessons in my books. That's not my job. However, you need to know quite a lot of the history in order to understand the motivations and objectives of the characters, what they struggle, their context. And so I came up with a device for this. Structurally, it's my best. I mean, it's the hardest structure, but it's a really well constructed novel. Although I say so myself, but it is, you know. But it really that took a lot of wrestling into shape in order to get as much history out of the way, so we could get back to the story. If I'm ever going off into a sidetrack, or I read writers who take me off into a history lesson, I think, no, why? The character needs to know this now. That's why we've got this fact here, and that's why that fact appears. Don't show your first draft to anyone. First drafts should be, you should be free to write anything you want. You know, it should be poorly spelt, bad grammar, contain dubious relationships to bestiality, whatever you want to put in there. It should be in there, and you shouldn't be feared that your wife or your mother is going to go, oh, that's the sort of person you are. You should feel free to create, and then you can go back and edit, and then decide how much or how little you want to put in or leave in. So I remind myself of that constantly, that this is a process. Writing is a process. It's not, you know, no one is an instant genius and channels it from the gods. Sometimes you find yourself there and you've created the right conditions and you are typing away, and I will be chuckling because it's like taking dictation. So if you can allow your first draft to be that big rambling, you know, tangential, detouring thing, and trust that you'll be able to go back at it, you know you will, and fix it, then that's a big thing, and that's something I've learned for sure.